Welcome back to another edition of Inside Findlay Trojans Athletics here on FindlayTrojans.com and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer. As always, we're joined by Findlay Athletic Director Nate Weihrauch. We're also joined by a very special guest here today in tennis head coach Sean Swisher. Good to have you both here with us today. We're going to get the first half of the show. We're going to be talking to Coach Swisher about his team. And on the back half of the show, myself and Nate will get into the other fall sports because we still have a lot to cover there. But Coach, first of all, appreciate you joining us here on the show. Obviously, a huge year your team has had to this point, and we're still going at this juncture, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But you've already set a program record with 17 match wins on the year. We're 17-4 on the season as we're getting ready for the next round of postseason play coming up here. I'm just wondering, in that perspective, at what point during the season did you think a win total like this was possible and that you could set a program record like this?
Well, I mean, honestly, once we got a win on the road at Perrysburg, a team that we haven't beaten in quite a while, I knew that this group, that match ended close to 9:30 at night. We had to have the lights on due to rain and a late start. And I just saw how resilient all the girls were. Looking ahead at the schedule, I knew that the Notre Dame, St. Ursula, those programs are going to be tough. And there's probably another 4 or 5 coin flip matches that we had that I knew would be tough. But I knew that, with the circles on the schedule, we could still get to 17. But after we beat Perrysburg that night, that kind of, the light bulb went on that we could have a really special season.
Nate, what's it been like for you to watch this team progress and, as Coach said, get that win over Perrysburg, and it kind of gets the ball rolling from there and seeing them to where they are now, as we said, with a program record 17 wins?
Yeah, it's been outstanding. I think it actually kind of goes back to the summer. They did a nice job in the off season. We've always talked about to our staff and to our kids about, championships and our success in the regular season is actually because of the results of what we do in the off season. And I really, hats off to Coach Swisher and to our gals because they work extremely hard in the summer. They competed against the boys and they were showing up 3 or 4 times a week throughout the summer just to get out there on the court. So hats off to all those girls and to our coaching staff.
The success has continued, as I said, into the postseason. Well, the sectional has already been completed, and it's interesting kind of the way things worked out in the sectional final as we had 2 Trojans in the sectional final with Sydney Swisher and Ava Roach. Sydney ends up winning the sectional. So I want to kind of get both your thoughts on that. Nate, let me start with you for this particular point here. What was your reaction as you see the brackets play out and seeing that you're going to end up having 2 of your players meeting there in the sectional final?
Yeah, it's always a tough one, to be honest with you. I mean, it's extremely tough, and I know that our coaches kind of stay away and they hate seeing that too. But hats off to both those young ladies because I think each of them had about a 2-hour match prior to that, and then Ava I think might have even been 3 hours, and then they go head to head, and they're honest to goodness they went to the 3rd set tiebreaker, and I think they were after a coach for about 3 hours again. So it's a long day for those young ladies, and proud of each one of them. Proud of them all.
Sean, what was your reaction seeing that the brackets were playing out and eventually it comes to this? And as Nate said, coming off of long matches heading in, and then we get another long match between the 2 in the sectional final. How difficult was that for you to try to watch?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, the good thing about it is our doubles teams were playing a couple courts down, so that kind of kept our focus a little bit. But, Ava had an unbelievable win in the semifinal over Perrysburg's #1 player. I mean, Ava's played #3 for us all year, and for her to get a win over Mona in the semi was not, I won't say it was surprising. We knew they were going to be out there for a while, but for her to get a win, and then typically when our players play one another, the coaching staff, we kind of let them do their thing. We don't coach, we don't cheer, we don't want to show any favoritism whatsoever. And also one of them being my daughter down there made it even a little bit more difficult for me not to peek on what was going down there. Every once in a while I took a look at the scorecards, but it was a battle. I mean, and that's, like I told him when I called him to the net when the match was over, the only winner in that match was FHS tennis. I mean, having both of them in the finals.
Were you just happy that everybody got out of there healthy and there was no long-term effects from it?
Yeah, I mean they're both probably still feeling it today. I think their legs are. I think the match was just under 3 hours, so I think that they're still feeling it today. So we're gonna have a light hit today and get them loosened up a little bit.
You mentioned your doubles teams there and what they've been doing, and we'll focus on one of them now, Libby Lemaster and Madison Barbary. They already know their draw as far as the next round of the postseason goes, and they're going to take on a team from Ashland. You saw earlier in the year beat them 6-love, 6-3, but that's been a while. It's been a couple of months since you've seen that Ashland team. How much do you think you're able to draw from that matchup that can be applied here to try and get your team into the next round?
Well, I mean, we also not only did we play them there, we also played them in the finals of their tournament, and I think the score was 8-1. But again, seeing their results, they've had some good results against some pretty good teams. They went 3 sets with the Perrysburg #1 doubles team, which is a really strong team. I think it just gives us confidence that we're going. It's their first time going to the district, so it gives them confidence that hey, we can win in advance, and that's it is one round at a time.
As you said, with the first time going to the districts at this point, is there any extra bit of information you're trying to provide them, extra insight, what it takes, so on and so forth? Or are they learning that as they go along and perhaps from some of their teammates who have been there?
Yeah, well, and it's Ava's first trip too. I mean, she's a junior. Like I said, she was a JV last year. So for her to be in the sectional final shows the work that she put in the off season. And this will be Sydney's 3rd time. And she's really close with Libby and Maddie. So I think they came over and supported her last year. We're going to be going over the day before so they can play on the courts, get used to their surroundings, stuff like that. So it is a little different when you go to a court and play there the first time, just, the settings, stuff like that. So we're going to go over a day early and try to get them prepared a little bit that way as well.
Nate, as coach said, Ava Roach, a junior this year, but coming up from JV last year to get all the way to a sectional final this year. What's, from your perspective, seeing her development over the last year, how's that process been?
She's been outstanding. What I've been really impressed with Ava about is just her consistency. I think I talked to Coach about this about 3 weeks ago. She's just been so consistent on the court. So extremely impressed with her. And but we talked about the off season, right? So she's a junior right now. So this coming off season is going to be big for her, just to be able to hit those lines and so forth. We're extremely excited for Ava.
As we're moving on in the postseason, obviously, Ava is going to kind of take the reins next year, Coach, as you're going to lose 6 seniors off this team going into next season. But as far as this senior class goes, all the success they've had, particularly obviously with this year setting a new program record for wins with 17 going into the postseason. When you think back to the growth and development of this senior class, what's going to stand out most to you?
Just how close knit they really are. I mean, there's no animosity or jealousy in our group. Everybody wants to win for one another. And at some point, there's an LCC match where Sydney gets the clinching win. There's the Perrysburg match where Libby and Maddie get the clinching win. Just the fact that they all came in the program as freshmen, kind of paid their dues, worked their way up. And they're all really, really, better individuals than they are tennis players. I can tell you that.
Lastly, before we let you go here, because I know time is short for you today, so we appreciate your time here. When you see the draw come out for both singles and doubles, what was your reaction to it, and how do you evaluate the chances for your girls to make a run?
Well, Sydney, our singles players are playing both BG girls in the first round, and Sydney played Lucy last year, but she didn't get a player this year. She played Ava's opponent because Lucy was not able to make our match. So, I mean, the good news is they're playing girls that I know personally, good families. So, I mean, there'll be good matches. And they both actually have a chance to get to day 2 if they play really well over there. Maddie and Libby, again, they know their opponent in round 1. Then they're going to run into some St. Ursula girls. But at the end of the day, they're singles players playing doubles. So sometimes that makes a bit of a difference. But, we're just taking it one round at a time. And again, just thankful that we got, 4 of our girls over there to compete.
Yeah, a big season nonetheless, and still more to come, of course. But all the success they've had all season long already, something is certainly going to stand the test of time at Findlay High School. Coach Sean Swisher, we certainly appreciate your time here today. Good luck the rest of the way in the postseason.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, there. We certainly do appreciate your time here today. And again, our best of luck to Sean Swisher and his tennis team as they move forward into the postseason. With that, we'll move on to the next portion of our podcast as Sean heads off here today. And Nate, let's get right into some more of your teams right here. And let's start with cross country right now, as they have a pretty big deal coming up this weekend with the track championships, and then also the districts coming up on the 23rd. We look at the way things have gone for your teams all year long, both the boys and the girls. They've been right second, third place in the league all year long. So we've consistently put out results. We consistently, as we've talked about, continue to set PRs, new low times, seemingly every time out. How does that set up expectations for the runners, not only in the track championships, but also in the districts in 2 weeks, given how consistent they've been all year?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have goals, right? This past weekend, we had our girls placed fourth at the Harding Invite, and our boys placed sixth. Things are wide open when you talk about the league to the districts. We take a look at this coming week with our league, and Colette Seeger for the girls, she ran her best time here at the Harding Invite. So we're hoping that we're peaking at the right time, right? Because we got an Annie Traver. I tell you what, she did a phenomenal job. She actually PR2 with her best race in her career. I believe ran a 21:21. So then, Katie Prusniak coming on up, first time cross country runner here for us as a senior, and she's doing a phenomenal job too. Lindsay Casada, Elizabeth Laird, Amber Ben. For the boys side, I've mentioned to you that the Harding Invite, they were sixth overall. And Adrian Stuckshorty, I tell you what, he PR'd again with a 17:01. He's a dual sport kid too. He's a dual sport kid playing soccer, and we're super excited. But you had mentioned about the league. We have on the boys' side, you got Toledo St. John's, Toledo St. Francis. St. Francis is extremely strong this past year. Yep. We're hoping that we can get, the Preston Perkins. He stepped up to a huge race this past weekend, had his best race of the year. So we need to have those people keep on continuing to make strides. Christian Black is a kid that I was extremely impressed with. He broke 18 minutes this past week, and we need people like that to continue to, especially the league, right? We've got to do our best there. So strong competition on both the boys and the girls. And the girls, you got St. Ursula, Notre Dame. I tell you what, they're amazing once again. So we're super excited. We're focused on our league and districts, which we host districts will be at Owens Community College, which is basically home for us. So hopefully we get that extra couple minutes of sleep and we're ready to roll. So. Yeah,
and also that familiarity with the layout there can hopefully help things out there as well. Let's move on to the golf course here. And boy, strong showings from your teams in the sectionals. They continue to play on here to move on to the districts there on both sides. So a nice job there doing what they need to do to move on. So now we move forward. Now we look forward. How do the coaches and players feel about the upcoming next round in the districts, how those courses set up to their individual games, and the potential there to, if not get the teams through the state, at least a couple individuals?
Right. Yeah, and we have tremendous weather that's supposed to be here. I mean, the girls play tomorrow at Stonebridge up at Bowling Green, and it's a familiar course for us. We've been up there, we've practiced up there, we've played up there, we've competed up there, obviously for our league championship where we finished third. But we're familiar with that, but we're not so familiar on the flip side of it. We're not so familiar with Shawnee Country Club, where our boys compete with on. We practiced yesterday, but our boys compete there on Wednesday, and it's a hilly course. It's narrow. There's a lot of trees. I know I'm not sure about your golf game, but trees and I don't really mix well. So for mine, but it's going to be an exciting week. It's going to be a busy week for those two teams.
Switching gears, let's move on to the soccer pitch. And both teams, both the girls and the boys, are going to finish the regular season this week. We now know the postseason routes that both are going to have to take in order to try and make postseason runs. The girls are going to open with Sylvania Southview on the 20th. The boys are going to get Fremont Ross on the 21st. So names we're familiar with. So perhaps that can help things out as far as setting us up for runs in the postseason. What did the coaching staffs make of the draws, the way they broke, the seeding, all of those types of things, and the opportunity that each can present for a long postseason run?
Yeah, certainly we talk about goals, and that's obviously one of our goals. We got to get past step one here, right? We got to, for our sectionals, and our girls faced Sylvania Southview, and we actually just played them on Saturday, and we were fortunate to come away with a 2-0 win against those girls. But I tell you what, it's going to be tough because we have to go up there, and we have to play them again. So you've seen it time and time again where you play those people multiple times in a year. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very challenging. So great. Sylvania Southview has a great team, and for the boys, we're going to host Fremont Ross on October 21st, and if we can get past them, then we're going to be traveling up to, I believe it's going to be up at Southview, Sylvania Southview, and then we could play the matchup, the winner between Anthony Wayne and Lima Senior. So, which teams we're familiar with.
So specifically with the girls, knowing that Sylvania Southview matchup is happening so quickly after they just played them, as we said, this past Saturday, that you're only going to have about 11 days in between those matchups. As you said, you're traveling again there. Can that help them knowing that they just saw the team who is going to be very, very fired up for this match, but they also have that familiarity with the personnel and with their tactics, and it can make the challenge a little more manageable, to say the least, in that matchup, especially given that it is a sectional, and if you lose, you're done.
Right. It's win or go home, and these type of games really do concern me, just because you don't want it's great to get that regular season victory, right? It's great to get that non-conference victory, but it was tough. I tell you what, it was 0-0 going into the half, and then we were fortunate to come on out with a couple goals there. It's just tough to play those teams back to back like that. And so we're going to do it, and we're going to do the best we can. And hats off. During that game, we had senior Emily Meyer ended up breaking the single season steal record for 91. So hats off and congratulations to her and for the team.
Moving indoors momentarily, let's talk about your volleyball team here. They're finishing up their regular season this coming week as well, but not an easy way to close the regular season with road trips to Whitmer, to Lima Senior, and to St. Ursula. We are coming off a nice trip to Rocky River. You go 2-1 there over the weekend, so started building things in the right direction. And so I'm wondering, now that we've gotten some experience on the road at Rocky River, win 2 out of 3 there. We've got 3 more on the road this coming week. How big is this week as far as trying to keep that momentum going, especially knowing you're going to hit the road in the sectionals?
Yeah, we talked about in cross country about peaking, and I'm hoping that we're not peaking at the wrong time here, because this is a very, very busy week. But I'm so proud of the girls. We traveled to Rocky River, stayed overnight there, give the girls a different experience, way to get some tough competition there, and super excited those girls stepped up, and they went 2-1, as you had mentioned, and we had Ashley Robinson Senior had another huge weekend where she got her 1,000th assist. So hats off to her. A couple of weeks ago, you and I talked about senior leadership, and Ashley, she's doing a great job there. But this is back to your point. This is going to be a tough, crucial week, because you got Whitmer, Lima Senior, and then St. Ursula, and obviously we all know St. Ursula. They're a force to be reckoned with, obviously. But our girls, very impressed with our young ladies and our coaching staff, and hopefully we keep that rolling. Going off to October 20th, we match up with the winner of Clay and Mansfield Madison Comprehensive. So like I said, super excited for our girls and for our coaches.
In particular, with that St. Ursula matchup, as you said, St. Ursula is always a power in volleyball there, and to close the regular season against them before you head off into the sectionals. What are you and the coaches wanting to see in that particular match from your girls to give that to provide that confidence that they can go into the postseason and put some wins together?
I think it comes down to effort and consistency. The one thing I've really noticed about our volleyball team is we need to be able to close out games. I look at a Fremont Ross game the other night. It was a very extremely exciting game. We ended up losing it in 5, but I tell you what, those girls never gave up. They were down 0-2, came on back, won 3 and 4. But we talk about being able to close out games. I'm looking at that match, that set match 4, and I believe it was like 24-17. And I think the final might have been 30-28. So that's what I'm saying is we just need to be able to close out games and continue to have that effort consistency. And as you know, volleyball is a game of momentum, right? So we just keep that momentum going.
And they'll be looking to do that against a very difficult schedule. But again, that'll battle tested as you go on the road in the sectional and hopefully onto the districts beyond that. As we normally like to do here on the fall season of the podcast, let's wrap things up talking about your football team. And they've continued to keep the momentum going over the last few weeks, especially, go back to the middle of September, losing big to Whitmer 40-6 and kind of wondering, kind of a tipping point in the season. Things can go one way or another, but your team has answered the call over the last 3 weeks, winning comfortably against Fremont Ross, winning a nail biter against St. Francis de Sales, and then this past Friday, going on the road to Clay and putting on an offensive clinic, winning at 51-25. Ryan Montgomery throws for 382 and 3 scores. And we look at the way things set up with the final 2 weeks of the regular season. You're going to go to St. John's Jesuit this coming Friday and then host Lima Senior on the 22nd. That'll also be middle school band night, which is kind of a fun thing to do at the school there. But nevertheless, 3 in a row here after that tough loss to Whitmer, a good possibility to make it 5 in a row as both your upcoming opponents are behind you in the standings. I'm just wondering, over the last few weeks since that Whitmer loss, what's turned for this team?
Yeah, I think Coach has done a good job with Coach Adams, and this is his first year being here, but he was able to sit down and do a 5-game audit, where we were at beginning of the year, where we're at halfway through the year. And, we kind of focused that, hey, listen, we need to be able to, how can we take the next step up? And he did an audit, an honest audit of the program across the board and looked at what was doing, things that we were doing well, things that we need to improve upon and so forth. And, hopefully getting that structure all situated. Hats off to the coaching staff and to our players. And like I said, they're doing a good job.
I mentioned what Ryan Montgomery did in the win against Clay, 382 yards and 3 touchdowns. You go back to the previous couple of wins, he's been putting up numbers, both passing and running the ball. Obviously, everybody pays attention to the quarterback, and as he goes, so goes your team. But has there been anything that you've noticed or the coaches have noticed in Ryan that's changed over the last few weeks? Because you're putting up points 34, 35, and 51 over the last 3 weeks. And you put up that many points, you're going to win a lot of football games. Has there been any kind of big change within Ryan's game itself?
It's funny that you say that. I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was out of practice and, went up to the kids, and Ryan was there and gave him a pat on the back and said, I'm just proud of you, because being a freshman, and I think he does a tremendous job, knock on wood, I think he does a tremendous job of just game management. He's not forcing too many things. Now, being able to have a second Max Roth or second wide receiver out there, maybe spread out some things with Ben Ireland, doing a nice job with that. But I think just game management wise, I think he does a nice job. I think he does a great job of stepping up in the pocket. Once you roll out and you have that defensive end coming on up, you got a choice. Are you going to try to go outside, or are you going to try to come back inside? He's been doing a good job of stepping up into the pocket and moving and shuffling his feet and picking up the open man. So hats off to him.
As you said, as a freshman, it is not an easy thing to ask a freshman to come in and start at the varsity level. And also, as I said, the last 3 weeks, put up the numbers he has. How have you and the coaches seen him grow as a leader from week 1 all the way here now to just 2 weeks left in the regular season. Has he earned the respect of his teammates around him and the trust from the coaching staff?
Yes, absolutely. He's also a little bit more vocal too. I mean, you think about it, man. You're a freshman, and then you're a little bit timid coming on in, but he's doing well because I mean he is having that success, and people are playing off in that, and they're seeing that, and it doesn't hurt that his bigger brother is also a lineman who helps out and out. So he better make sure that he's blocking, right? We don't want to make sure that Ryan, our quarterback, gets hurt. So, no, they're doing a great job. Hats off to our kids, and we need to cut down some penalties. But I tell you what, these are two rivalry games, so it's much like a Fremont Ross game, right? St. John's Lima Senior. It's like a Michigan Ohio State game, right? Throw out the records; it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just going to be a heck of a matchup, and hopefully we can come out on top.
Two big games as far as playoff seeding goes as well, can really help you out and get you a more favorable draw. And who knows, if things break right, maybe even host a couple of rounds in the playoffs as well. You never know how things can happen, but got to take care of business the next couple of weeks. There are two big games there for sure. Nate, a lot of great stuff this week. Again, we certainly appreciate Sean Swisher's time joining us here today, but boy, it's amazing how quickly we're nearing the end of the fall season, but still some work to be done, but a lot of positives right now at Findlay.
Yes. And thank you very much for everything. We appreciate it. We appreciate all this.
Absolutely. And we still have more to cover, and we'll do that in a couple of weeks on our next episode of the program here. As our thanks once again to Findlay Athletic Director Nate Weihrauch joining us for another edition of the Inside Findlay Trojans Athletics podcast here on FindlayTrojans.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.